Oh, is this something crazy happening?
Come on down.
Very nice. Saw some folks with some pretty good dance moves there, Spivey. I don't know if you saw that or noticed that. I did not see you out there with any dance moves, though.
I was just about to say, one thing you didn't see was good dance moves by me.
Well, that doesn't mean that you don't have them. I've seen you show off those dance moves from time to time.
Can
You
we
like
just leave
dancing
it
to
as
Tom Petty a little more
they're
than
yet to be discovered dance moves.
You got them in there. They're just buried, waiting to be
buried.
pulled out. You know who pull them out for you is Amy Fine is a fantastic dance instructor. Carlton Lear. I saw the Hemi there. You know, maybe we could set up like a dance class in Costa Rica. That'd be fun.
I like
Ashley,
the idea.
Tyler, I mean, am I on my own here to think that it could be pretty special to do a dance class in Costa Rica?
Well, I signed up to be the judge.
I'm already the judge. You have to judge with me. We need a panel of 3. That'd be good.
You know what makes you more nervous than anything, Brandon, is not being very good at dancing and being around somebody like Amy Fine, who you know is going to drag you to the dance floor anyways.
Not going to do it. Yeah.
You know, the music comes on, you start checking your watch, time to go to the bathroom, try to walk out.
Very uncomfortable. I appreciate you noticing that about me.
I feel like Ayers and Sicily would be the ones that are like kind of like just going around casting that reel, trying to pull you out onto the floor.
I know.
And get you involved.
I don't get hooked very often though. You know? Or pops out of there. You can find me hanging out at the bar. Generally, if there's dancing involved. Probably because, as Todd said, I get a little anxious, get a little nervous.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
That's why you always stayed on stage and played the guitar, right? That was more safe for you.
I guess so. Yeah, probably so. Probably so. I don't know that I was playing the kind of dance music that we just heard, but you know, there wasn't a whole lot of dancing going on back in those days at the booth. Man, we got a good one lined up today. Tyler, Ashley, it's actually it's a real background there. You're live from Blue Ridge, Georgia, the home of many a trout stream. And we got a good one lined up today. Give us a sneak peek of what's to come.
Man, I'm so excited about this call. First off, it's really going to be, I think, great and fitting to introduce Tyler Harris to the rest of Symmetry world out there. It's been about a year now that he's been a huge part of my life, but also a huge part of my business. And that's the piece that I think is going to be really important as we move forward. We've spent the last 10, 11 months really developing a recruiting system that is powerful and now is producing some awesome results. So we've got a lineup of 3 folks, Eric Miller, Jaime Whitney, and David Drumgool, who are a product of that system. And they're going to tell you some of their story and what they've seen. But yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be good all the way.
I am too. Can't wait for everybody to hear a little bit about Tyler's story, and then a little bit about y'all's system that you've got. Spitting out since, I would say the last 90 days, you're averaging 30-ish percent, 31% of recruits to SNAs. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Maybe we can shed some light on how you guys are doing that. So awesome to have you. Let's hit some numbers real quick. Everybody hold your breath. I am sharing my screen. Whoop, I forgot to close all my stuff out. There's my calendar.
I was nervous when you walked in, 30 seconds before the call started.
I know I was a little busy. I kind of lost track of time. That happens.
Shouldn't be down there meeting with Joe in marketing so much. It's not like we've got a conference coming up with many 1,000 people's registered, Brandon.
That's true. And we have a very exciting call scheduled for next week as well with Brian Pope, Casey Watkins, me, you, maybe a few advisory board members, but we have a very special guest for the second part of next week's call.
Heard good things. Good things about this guest that might show up.
It's a blast from the past. So we've had this gentleman at 2 previous conferences as a keynote speaker, author of the book. I want to say the title, I don't have it in front of me, is Living a Life of Significance, Mr. Joe Jordan. And I can't wait to get back with him. It's been a while, maybe at least 5 or 6 years, I would think. Maybe Ashley can tell us if she ever had the chance to see Joe Jordan at one of our conferences, or if that was after she showed up. So
I did not.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good. You guys are going to love it. So be sure to get here next week. There's going to be a lot of stuff about conference, and then our very special speaker, Mr. Joe Jordan. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. Leaderboards for the week. Top 10 new writers. Michael Richard Harper with 7,500 in first place for the week. And by the way, it was an amazing week of production. It was, if it hadn't been for the records that we set in February, it would have been a record week. So what you guys are doing is working. Brian Green, Matthew Avila, and Sean Hogue, $28,000 personal production.
Isn't that crazy?
I think that's that would be, I had 1 week in my whole career, and I was in the field for 10 years, had 1 week that was bigger than that. And it was only because I picked up like 2 IULs that were close to $1,000 each, neither of which got paid. My issue rate that week was terrible, Todd. I'm being vulnerable.
It doesn't sound like that was a good issue week.
No.
But I do want to say quickly too, Brandon, congratulations to everybody on the leaderboards, but special shout out to Julia Mullins. Julia Mullins was one of our recent graduated SNAs.
Oh,
now look at her. Top 5 total APV producer. Way to go, Julia.
I like it. All right. Let me get back in my game here. App counters. Harrison Zipkin. Stephen Ingalls. Number 1, 18 applications. Not too shabby, buddy. Well done. Brian Broyles. Have we said this before, that Brian Broyles, I'm pretty sure, is like an ex-NFL football coach or something? It's just got the name of a coach, Spivey. We've seen
Brian Broyles. Sounds tough.
He sounds like a very tough individual.
It's like he probably believes in the 2 yards in a cloud of dust theory.
Oh, I like that. Like maybe he used to run the wishbone back in the day. Like what I'm hearing on that one. Disability income riders, Julia Sarah in first place. IUL producers, big numbers here, man. Hopefully they can issue these IULs better than I did. And I bet they can, because I stunk it up pretty good when it came to writing IULs. So I didn't do much of it, nearly enough of it. But you know what? Ryan Gaska's got something figured out. 41 grand. Hello. I see you, Ryan Cody, too. You know, Cody had to come in thinking, ain't nobody going to beat me on the leaderboard this week. You know, he's fired up, counting them chickens. And then he shows up and he's like, who the heck is this other Ryan?
I'd have been counting chickens if I was Gail at 12,000.
Yep.
Good heavens, Ryan.
I know. And then she got shown up by the Ryans. What the heck, Cody and Gasca? Well done.
Maybe that's a prerequisite. If you're going to be really good at IULs, you got to have a first name of Ryan.
We're
We
gonna have
should
to
look
get
into that for
clarification.
recruiting.
I don't think the inverse of that is accurate though, because Ryan Miller I never knew as a great. So I mean, I think it could help, but I don't think it's a given. If you're
Sure.
Ryan, you know.
Sure. Scratch that from the recruiting requirements.
Yeah, unless there's like a data source where you can just pull Ryans. I bet there is. Talk about really uncovering something. And how crazy is it? Lindsay and Greta both probably thought they nailed it too. And they tied for $400,000 in annuities. Very well done, Greta and Lindsay. Elliot Meredith, I like it. It's very close to my wife's name. February. This was for the month because we had it a little bit wrong last week. These are the updated numbers for the championship of February. The second baseman, Ryan Federico, got outlasted by Brent Chapman. Sorry about that, Feds. Jake Davis, you know what happened? You want to talk about something crazy happening? Jake Davis is from Charlotte. We were in Knoxville 2 weeks ago filming. Jake is taking a friend to Nashville, comes back from Nashville. We're crossing a street. Haven't seen Jake in 2 years, probably a year and a half. He almost runs us over. Wasn't there for filming. It was completely random. Now, what are the odds, Todd's? They can't be very good.
Very few and far between.
It was really good to see him, though. I can tell you that. Victor Anthony Arocho with $20,000 in debt-free life production. Tune in to the conference in 2 weeks to find out a lot more about DFL because there's some massive changes coming and it's going to knock your socks off.
Unbelievable. Good stuff.
Yes. Great week from you, DJ. And you, of course, number one, Arocho. Total recruits for the week. Look at Dana Else. She has something figured out. You think she's going after the Ryans? She might be. Good job, Kevin Purdy. These are total recruits. Okay. Now you got to get these folks through licensing. Kevin Purdy, the monster. Darren Stubbs. He's got licensed recruits. Imelda Kopnak, the Godfather himself, Capistrano. Kevin Purdy on the directs board, though, 17. 17 folks ready to rock and roll. Let's see what you do with them now, KP.
Interesting fact here, too, Brandon, on those is both of the Ryans we spoke of earlier are in the Darren Stubbs organization.
Wow.
So if you're interested in recruiting Ryans, you might want to text Darren Stubbs and see what he's got working over there.
That's true. He might have all the ad space for Ryans taken up, the pay-per-clicks, everything in Google. Might not be. He's so quick to the game. Every time somebody has a good idea, like, oh, I'm going to go recruit Ryans. No, you're not. Darren's been doing this, man. Anytime you think of a good idea, chances are somebody's already thought of it. I'm not saying to stop thinking of good ideas, though. I don't want to, Got a log jam at the top with Zach Little and Larry and Ann Griffin. I kind of threw all that together like a double name, Larry Ann. Good job. Keyshawn Monteith is showing no signs of slowing down. Above 50% growth year over year last year from 20 to 19. He's not letting good enough go, And I like that about Keyshawn. Don't get comfortable. What? I mean, you just got to start to get rocking and roll. Why would you get comfortable, Todd?
I'll tell you one thing that's been very evident to me in the last couple of months, as we, as you know, weekly pour over so many different data reports. Keyshawn's name is mentioned everywhere.
Yes.
He is on it.
Yes, he is. Well done, Keyshawn. He'll get on to you if you call him Keyshawn.
Well, that's part of it, though. Once I figure out I'm not supposed to call you by a certain name, kind of stick to it.
Yep, I like that. I might go to Keyshawn as well. What if I go to Keyshawn? Seasoned new agents. Look at these guys, gals. Blake, Brett, Corey, Eugene, Jana, maybe Jana, Jeremy, Hopgood, strong, Joanna, Kelly Ballard, Sarah Diane Calvin, Tiffany. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Key leaders. Christian Capistrano, number one for the week with $28,000. Well done. Agency owners, Minnow Glick, 40 grand for the week.
Nice.
Almost doing what he needs to be doing in a month. In a week. Well done. Good week from Phil Robertson, Dan and Diane. It's a good looking group here. Well done, everybody. Agency directors, Melissa Weigel. You think Joe Dindy loves her last name?
Guarantee it.
He's an
Weagle,
all-
Weagle, War Damn Eagle.
Don't. What?
I'm sorry. I had to do it just to prove Roddy wrong. I'm capable of growing, not just talking about Alabama football.
Right. We're not going to talk about who you were talking about anymore.
Okay.
Regional agency directors. It's a good looking group here too. Tony Capistrano, number one for the week. MVPs, good gracious. Alive, Scott Summers is slowing down none, showing no signs of slowing down. I hear you, D Stubbs. Great week, man. Jimmy Spilldinner, Kyle and Lisa Kimbrell, first place for the senior vice presidents by a while. Well done. We need to get Nate Offord on a call here pretty soon. Take a mental note of that, Todd. If you hear the week that he went through 2-3 weeks back, everything going on in Dallas that you remember, I don't want to get into the story because I need Nate to say it. He's doing much better. Executive vice presidents. Good Lord, Michelle and Ryan Miller. Man, they're having quite a year. Man, great week. Watkins, Lindale, associate partner, top. Jacob Pogue ain't slowing down either, though. Come on now. Edward Pritchett, number one with 878. He's taking his talents to Denver for the week to go snowboarding with his brother. So if you need Edward, that's where he is. Marshall Whalen, $917,000 in premium. Well done. Great week, everybody that made the leaderboards. Kevin Purdy with the last leaderboard. Congratulations to you, sir. $319,000. Kishan's thinking, hey, watch this. Y'all watch this. So if you had to guess how many registrations total we have for the conference coming up, what would you guess?
I might say that I have an inside track. I know it. I know a couple of days ago, Joe texted me pretty excited that we had surpassed 8,500. I have not talked to him today or yesterday. Do you know where we're at?
10,600. I think is the last total I heard. We're averaging over 500 new registrations a day.
10,500. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got a hold of something special here, guys. And this virtual conference, the way that it's going to be set up, the way that it's going to come across to the audience is going to be something special. And to have that impact already to be in front of over 10,000 people is phenomenal. So this is going to be cool.
It's going to be really cool.
Carriers are fired up, Brandon. I've been on the phone with the carriers all week too. They're getting their booths all leveled up, ready to go. Got some contests coming out too around conference. So a lot of really good stuff's coming up.
Yes. And we're going to talk a lot about this next week, but here's what I want to remind everyone of. It's going to be harder to stay focused. So if you're having a watch party, you need to set some ground rules up. Don't need any hallway philosophers, even though it's virtual, right? So just treat it as a normal conference. If you want it to have the impact, you must treat it as such. Carl Miller, great day in the morning.
On that note, Brandon, I will say that Ayers Newsom, of course, was telling me a really cool story a couple weeks ago about when he started traveling and winning a lot of these awards trips through carriers. And he could tell that Symmetry was different because when these carriers would have a guest speaker come, it was always the Symmetry agents that were sitting down and constantly taking notes. Everybody else standing up, moving around, not taking notes, playing on their phones. He knew there was something about this self-development in Symmetry. When we sit down, we want to invest in ourselves and take notes. So I thought that was a cool story related to the upcoming conference and staying focused for sure.
I like it. It's
Part of
good
who we
note.
are.
Yes. Look at Bridget Felix over there on the base shop board. You don't think Carl Miller's like telling people that they're going to meet Matthew McConaughey, do you?
Carl Miller's probably one of the most honest people I know.
Yeah.
But he's a good storyteller too. So
He may be making it very vague.
he might just not clearly understand that McConaughey's not going to be there. So we shouldn't tell him.
Right. Fireside chat. Maybe everybody thinks they're going to actually be able to sit around the fireside and chat. It'll kind of be like that, you know, kind of be like that. All right. Oh, snap. You know about this?
I do. It's
This looks good. This looks like it's in our backyard here.
It is. It's an incredible opportunity in August to win a 2 nights paid for at the Omni Grove, airfare, drinks, food, golf, a trip to the spa, and some of us over here in the home office are going to be able to come over and participate, hopefully play a little golf with the winners. It's going to be the top 5 producers and the top 2 agency owners with base shops.
Okay. All right. I like it.
And that contest actually, Brandon, it's going to go through May 31st. So plenty of time. We're very early in the contest. And just to remind everybody, there's a minimum of at least 5 placed applications.
All right. So, I mean, this seems right up the Ryan's alley, doesn't it?
I would think so. If there's not at least 2 Ryans, I'm going to be shocked.
I am too. Well done. It's a great contest. We've got more of these coming out too. Some more upcoming events. Tomorrow, we've got Columbus Life drilling down the IUL. I like that. Not really sure what that means. Maybe that's why it's the title, is the suspense part of it, right? Monday, we got the Busics and John Clayton, how to add value to the critical period options. So get everybody that is in the field producing, make sure you're on that call Monday. I'm telling you, when I was in the field, and this was, you know, a while ago now, 8 or 9 years ago, 40%, sometimes 45% of what I would sell was critical period options. So you need to learn. If you're a new agent or if you've been here for a while, you need to understand this concept backwards and forwards. Connect is back. Got Meredith and Witt, March 18th, counting it down. Instagram Live. Look at that. I think they've been talking to Tyler Harris, getting their social media influence up. If I know my wife, she didn't know how to work Instagram Live till about a week ago. And I still don't know how to work Instagram Live, so I'm not clowning. Can't wait.
Ian, you could do TikTok Live. We can knock that out.
I don't even know that I could do that unless you push a button. I think I would get real nervous. You know, like it's so easy to record and then edit and then, you know, but once the red light is on, you know how it is, man. You've done some Todd Talks. I see you in there. You're all fired up, and then that light pops on, and you get real serious and start getting into the points.
Live is a different ball game. I can vouch for that. I think you got a little bit more training though.
Different ball game. I like it. We got a good one right here, Mr. Whitaker. Spivey, I'm going to shut up, let you do the talking, because I don't want to mess anything up, and we got ourselves a good one here.
We do. Mr. Whitaker has been with us for a few years now, and Matt and Brad just speak so highly of him and the organization he's building. And for those of you that don't know, Mr. Whitaker started with us back back in 2019, just like many of you probably on this call that are new, struggled the first couple of months, probably wasn't always convinced that he was going to be able to do this, completely turned it around and became the #1 overall writing agent in Symmetry, over $550,000 of business, and broke out as an agency owner. So now he's got 3 key leaders. They're all making AO runs for themselves. And what really caught my attention, Brandon, was the consistency of his production. I had to go all the way back to August of 2020 to see that he did not issue pay at least $20,000 in a month on his own pen. Typically, he's issuing paying about $30,000 a week or a month, on his own pen.
Wow.
So incredible consistency. I think you can see it right there. I love it in that quote. In a time when things are constantly changing, be consistent. So Jeremy, if you're out there, buddy, if you want to come on and tell us a little bit about yourself and share with the good folks how you arrived to where you are today.
Man, that is an incredible intro, by the way. I'm Jeremy. I've got the privilege of being mentored by Brad Smith and Matt Smith, and man, I tell you what, I didn't realize how blessed I was, getting started and who my mentors were, who I was following. But I tell you, I couldn't have got it right. Couldn't have got it better and getting it right the first time. I'm a small town guy here over in Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas. And yeah, you're right. I started here, it wasn't in 2019, it's 2017, in an effort to really figure out what the heck what was going to be next for me. I owned a meat company, me and my best friend. And we did door-to-door steaks and chicken and stuff like that. And was really overworked. And, I thought I was making a pretty good living, and things were falling apart on the home front, and was looking for something different, and knocked on the right door, knocked on Brad Smith's door, sold steaks. And, it's been off to the races kind of ever since. You speak about the challenges. I'm really big on it didn't take, right. It didn't take experience, right. Like, as I knew I didn't have the experience, I had some sales experience. I had a little bit of ego issues when I came. I had to get that out of the way. But, it was so tough for the first, 6 weeks. I mean, I can remember, spending every dime I had some weeks, to try to make some appointments, and I get shut down. And I was part-time at that time. So I'd get back on my meat truck and I'd go out and sell some steaks and have some instant gratitude, make myself feel a little bit better. And I get back on the phone the next day and get shut down. And I can remember sending Brad a text message. I said, "Man, I know you don't know me very well, but one thing you're going to learn about me is that I'm not a quitter." Right. And at that point, that was probably the first time I realized that I needed to be coachable, I needed to be teachable, I needed to plug into all the tools that are around us. And since then, the numbers, the consistency speaks for itself.
Yeah, and so now that you're up and you've proven yourself time and time again as a top producer, and you're building your own agency and your own key leaders and your own organization. For those new out there on the call today, what's the #1 thing they should be focusing on to get themselves in a position to where they can start to believe and see themselves successful in this business?
Mm. You know, that's a great question. I think if I had to give, like, hey, this is where everybody needs to start, is, well, we have to look at the tools. I hinted at it just a second ago, the tools, the resources that we have in front of us. The system it's been perfected. It was perfected well before I got here, and I wasn't looking for something that I needed to, figure out and reinvent the wheel and, put my own spin on it or anything like that. The more I realized that this thing was so plug and play, the better I did. But once you've got that realization, right? I don't know how else to say it, but getting off, off your tail and doing it. I feel like for me, I knew that I knew I was bad, right? And I think that was the first part, is really admitting, man, this is harder than I think it's gonna be. I thought it was gonna be. It's not. I probably need more than 12 to 15 appointments, right? And so for me, when they said, hey, 12 to 15 appointments is where you want to be, that's where the average producer is. And I thought about that, and I'm like, well, maybe for me that's 20 to 25, right? And so I set my goal at booking 20 to 25 appointments so that I had enough times up to bat. I wanted to give myself as much room for error as possible, right? Because it's at the end of the day, I know that there's Todd, there's a ton of people that are better salespeople than me, that are way better at closing and at all kinds of stuff, right? And I didn't necessarily want to be the best salesperson or the best closer, but I knew that if I just did a little bit more than the best closers and the best salespeople were doing, that I'd at least be able to keep up with them, right? If nothing else, I'd be able to keep up with them because I'm outworking them, right? And so I think for me, the only claim to fame, the only thing I can brag on is work ethic, right? I've got a great group of people. We call our sales team No Sleep. I promise we sleep. People don't get intimidated by that, but it's more about, everybody gets tired, Todd. I got tired, every day, every week I get tired, but I'm pursuing my goals. I'm pursuing my purpose. And I don't know if that's something that, people necessarily wake up and say, hey, this is my purpose. I feel like a lot of times it's something that we end up finding as we're doing it. I definitely didn't feel like symmetry was my purpose coming in the door. But what I believe is that average people can live above average lives. And when I say that word average, I'm not talking about like average in that negative connotation that sometimes we can put on it. But I'm meaning like average people like me, average people from average places, small town America, from average families, average schools, average in that sense of the word. And all we were looking for was a shot. Right. And so I'm grateful because of Brandon and Casey and Brian for symmetry, because I found my shot. Right. And at the end of the day, it was a level playing field. I mean, there was people homeless here, come here and find success. There's, engineers I follow who found success. A meat man can find success here. Right. I had a level playing field for the first time ever. And that's what our whole team has built itself around, is helping average people live above average lives. And we rally around that.
I got to jump in here because this is too good not to. You may have been average, and I love that message because I feel like you're talking right at me, right at Casey Watkins, right at pretty much everybody on this call. You were just looking for your shot. You got it. Okay. So then you become one of the most consistent producers, if not the most consistent producer in the company. And, I always remember there was somebody that told me a long time ago, when they were explaining why it's so difficult to find people that can do this business. Why do you think, Jimmy, if there's one reason, why is it hard, not necessarily to find people that can do this business? Why is it hard for people to do this business? And really, it's all about any sales or commission only business. Why is that difficult for some people, for most people?
I think in my opinion, and I could be wrong, there could be more answers than one, but I'm going to say it would seem to boil down to belief in self, right? That I am good enough to go out and make an impression on somebody, help somebody in the process because I've talked to enough people. And because of that belief, obviously you can be pretty confident, and when you have seen this thing go out, like first it started with belief here because I got to see Brad Smith's results.
Yep.
But, obviously, failing my way forward, it started to look a little ugly, but I still was able to keep that belief. But after I was able to go out and turn things around and do 40,000 my first full-time month, I started to build this thing called confidence, right?
Mhm.
But I don't. There again, I don't know if that's the only answer. I think why people fail in sales is why people fail at anything, right? Because we look at failure as final, sometimes, and we give up. And
Yep.
truth be told, that's the only way that I've seen anybody with half of a possibility to be decent in sales. I've seen people get really, really close and then quit,
Yep.
right? And I figured out. I heard Marlon say, if you don't quit, you win. I heard him say that one time, and it stuck with me. And it's so true. And anytime I've gotten a question similar to that,
I think you're exactly right. I think there are a lot of reasons why, that you can point to, like what you're talking about: lack of confidence, lack of belief. Am I the right person? Can I do this? What I've always learned is that people, a lot of times, won't even give it a shot because there's no security net, right? There's this idea that when you're 1099 or when you're working and you're in charge of all the income and all the results that are coming in, that's difficult emotionally, I think, for most people, because maybe they don't believe that they can do it, right? We used to always say consistency in performance equals emotional stability. You're the perfect example of that. And I think it's very important that people understand that didn't come natural. It didn't come easy. You were very intentional about your consistency. You're still very intentional about your levels of consistency, right? But consistency and performance is everything. So I have one more question for you. And there may be a lot to unpack here, but how can folks become as consistent, Jeremy, as you are? What are some things that they can do starting today to create the habits to, get the same results that you're getting?
mm, I think right away, where it starts at, it's kind of pointing out what am I really aiming for? What's my end game? Where am I wanting to be? For me, it's I definitely want to be able to there again make a place, an atmosphere where we can help average people, live above average lives.
Yep.
And so, with that being said, I need to. I'm showing a pattern, right? Of this is how average people can pave this way to above average. And so, speaking of things like routine, like
Yeah.
for me, my routine is everything. It hasn't changed in 3.5 years. I mean, yeah, a little bit with COVID, but temporarily, right? And then the routine was the same, in and out. And so that's me sticking to a schedule. And we talk about it all the time. It's the most important thing that you can do as a business owner, especially, a lot of people come here and we're used to being W-2 and punching a clock and a schedule. And well, it's the same sort of thing. I just got to be able to treat this like a job, treat it like I'm working for somebody else, and work for my schedule. And
Yeah.
so everything's there. When I'm going to be on calls, when I'm going to be spending time with my family, when I'm going to be doing my personal development, right? But then, when I'm going to be doing dial time, when I'm going to, if you're in the field, when
Yep.
I'm going to be door knocking, right? That's all on the schedule, and it doesn't deviate from it. So if you call me on a Friday night, I know it's Brandon Ellis. I may, if I'm not on a phone call, send a text message and say, "Hey, I'll get right back to you." But most people, aren't going to get me on a Friday evening, because that's dial time. I want to be consistent
Love it,
with
man.
that,
I
because
love
I don't want to rob myself of starting out my week the right way. I believe in pace setting. I think that my first app, especially in a virtual environment, Brandon, where I can do some things over the phone on the weekend, maybe take 2 or 3 extra appointments. I love getting my first app in on the weekend because I'm already ahead for Monday. I set the pace
Yep.
for how my week is getting ready to go. Now my confidence level is at an all-time high when I wake up
Right.
Monday morning.
You can
You know,
control that. You're right. You're exactly right. Yep.
yeah,
I love it.
it's
It takes it takes discipline to do that. A lot of people will create a schedule because that's kind of the fun part. We used to always do that where you'd have kind of a side-by-side days of the week, Sunday through all the way through Saturday. And we would teach people, man, have every 15 to 30 minutes carved out so you know exactly what you're doing. It takes discipline to stick to that. Like everybody today can do this exercise where you can go create the perfect schedule for yourself. And you need to include in that, not just business stuff, personal stuff. When am I going to work out? When am I going to spend time with my family? If you have kids, when am I going to spend time with my kids? All these things have to be made to happen. They don't just happen. And so you nailed it with one word, and that is you are in complete control of your routine. The habits that you formed over the last several years, you didn't start with those habits. You forced yourself to learn those and to create those, right? So, I think it's, I think it's great advice. I think we need to have you back on because we could talk about this for an hour. Because I'm a big believer that anybody can do this. Exactly what you're saying. The average can do this. Anybody can do this. Most people just won't. It's not that they can't. They just won't. And probably it goes back to what you were just talking about. They don't have enough belief in themselves, or they don't have enough discipline to stick to the routines until they become habits. And now, just like you said, man, you know what's going on Friday night. You know what's going on Monday morning. You know what's going on within any 15-minute spot during the week, and you protect those times. You don't let other things get in the way because that's what brings you success. I think if everybody would take that to heart on the call that is not getting the results that you're getting, I think that's a great first step. Is you got to know your calendar, and then you got to work on yourself until you become, then you can become the person that has the discipline to stick to that routine. Great stuff, man.
Man, I appreciate it.
I've had one question pop up. I do need to ask you, how many policies did you sell before you could afford a gold microphone?
Hey, you know what? This is a new edition, so I'd put that somewhere over 800.
Man, we appreciate you, buddy. That's good.
Hey, thanks for having me
again soon. Thanks, Jeremy.
Coming on, Jeremy.
Yep. Oh man, there's so much.
He's special, buddy. He's something else.
I love that story. I love. There's so much kind of motivating in that. If I'm brand new, if I'm looking at this, like the expectation of knowing that this ain't going to be easy. This is going to be hard. If it were easy, you'd make easy money. Easy money doesn't pay much. Can't pay many bills with easy money. It's hard. And the hard part, we say over and over and over again, is not necessarily the activity part. For some people, it's the investment part. All these things are challenging. The challenging part is, right in between those ears, how can I become the type of person that can get the results that other people are getting? That's the hard work. People always jump on a conference call expecting a tip, a trick, a secret. Here's what I say. Here's what I do. Man, the trick is you got to work on yourself more than your business. And when you do that, you become the type of person that can get the same results. That's it. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Spivey.
You're welcome, buddy. Before I bounce though, Brandon, do give everybody updates. Saw a couple of comments. Folks want to make sure that Casey's okay.
Casey is okay. He's soaking up the good life in Dorado. He was hanging out with Pritchett for a few days, and then I think we get my buddy back tomorrow, I believe. So I've been talking with him off and on. I've been trying to leave him alone and let him enjoy life, but I got to talk with him yesterday for a while, and it is everything that we remembered it to be and more. So I can't wait for all of us to be able to get back to Dorado. Good gracious. I can't wait to get back to Dorado. Oh, Mr. Tyler Harris, Miss Ashley Tarr, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey.
I've been looking forward to this one for a little while because I think there are a lot of people that haven't had a chance yet, Tyler, to meet you. Ashley's been here for quite a while. She's made an impact for quite a while. Ashley, you were a dynamic producer, not uncommon to come in, month out with $40,000 of production. You became a dynamic builder You've built a massive agency. You're an advisory board member, and you've got a partner in crime now. And I think a lot of people haven't had that opportunity to meet that partner. I have had many opportunities now, not only to meet you in person several times, but to talk just about business and life and your background. And I wanted everybody to have that opportunity, Tyler, to get to know you a little bit more like I have. So maybe before we get to talk to Jaime and David and Eric, I want to talk to you first. Okay. So and I don't want to get into too much of your story, Tyler. I don't want to get into too much of your story. I'm fixing to grill you, buddy. Putting you on the hot seat. We just got Jeremy off now. I'm putting you on the hot seat. I don't want to get into too much of your story because people are going to be hearing a lot more from you coming up soon. Matter of fact, they're going to be hearing more from you at the virtual conference. So I don't want to get into too many details, but I do want to talk just a little bit about your background with regards to insurance. You got licensed 2013-ish.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was the end of 2013.
I love the story you told me. You had to borrow money. You were in such a bad spot financially that you actually had to borrow money. And I can sympathize with that because my mama had to pay for my insurance license way back in 2001. I had no shame. I was like, I ain't got $150. Can you get me started? I think it
always carries a little more weight when you can say that around insurance agents because they know how little it costs to get a license. Yeah. When you say around other people, they're like, oh, it's probably like, $2,000, $3,000. It's like, no, I had to borrow like $100 to get that license. And that person asked for that money back at the end of the week. And, I got busy.
Yeah. So you came in and, a lot like Ashley in the business that you were in, you became just a phenomenal producer. I think you helped me out. How many applications in a year you dove into it? Was it like 3,000, almost 3,000 personal applications that you wrote in a year?
Yeah. The first 12 months, it was like 2,800.
Good.
12 months.
Grief.
And it was it was a different system. But the important thing to know is it wasn't like group plans, payroll deducted, like their individual plans. But because of the system, we could work crazy hours and meet with people at crazy hours. So it was 16 plus hour days, 200 plus nights a year on the road. It was brutal, but
so
worked.
What was the average premium? 30 to 40 bucks a month. I mean, 350 a year. Is that?
Yeah, it was like in the 275 to 350 a year.
All right. So let's just say 300 as an average. It's probably a little bit more than that. So you wrote north of $840,000 to $850,000 of premium personally in a year. Now, were you at least able to do that with e-apps, or did you have to actually fill out all that paperwork?
All paper. I would come back each week with a stack about this high. And this is the cool thing though, is like, so that first year, 2,800 apps, I would come back home to Greenville and I would throw this stack down on my boss's desk and I'd be like, boom, 120 apps this week. And they'd be like, man, that's awesome. How many people did you see? And I'd say 310. They'd be like, that's terrible. Like, what do you mean? Like I'm number one on the leaderboard. Second place has 39 and I have 120 something, but it was just literally the willingness to just put in a sick, disgusting amount of work. It was like, it didn't matter that my conversion was 25, 30%. I was just willing to go see 3 times as many people and it worked out in the end.
I think it definitely worked out for a little while in the end. So, did you find that it is kind of rampant in the industry that, with kind of what you were saying, like it's never enough. Sales cultures can be so hard driving that there's this idea that they kind of use the human brain against people because our minds are always working such that when I get to 300, I should already be at 350. When I get to 350, before I'm even there, I should be looking at 425, right? That's the way our minds work. And I think sales cultures a lot of times are driven by that, and they will put so much pressure on people and give them the idea that it is never enough. Did you go through that?
I did. And honestly, it's something that Ashley and I have really focused on over the last, I would say 3 or 4 months, is creating an environment. Like the last thing that we want to do is have somebody come on board no experience in the industry, get licensed, and all of a sudden they're out there in the field working this business, and they may write 18 grand in their first month. But if there was some type of expectation, or based on leaderboards, they're seeing other people that they felt like they should have hit like 30, then now they're feeling like a failure, when in reality, based on the time they put in and their results, they actually crushed it. And so that's a thing that we're super just like hyper focused on, is managing expectations and really auditing people's activity to calibrate their emotions on how they feel about what the results have been based on what they're actually doing in the business. That's a big focus of ours.
That's good. That's good. I think it's tremendously important. So what happened next? You were a massive producer, and then you take on a new role in the company?
Yeah, so it was kind of one of those, everybody knows the 4 Minute Mile story, Roger Bannister. When I came on board, it was by the grace of God that these guys came into my life. They were mentors. They happened to be in insurance. That's the only reason why I'm here. And they gave me this opportunity with a territory down in Georgia. It was about 3 hours away. And they basically told me that, like, go run the 4 Minute Mile, because they themselves, the owners of the company, had written 50 policies in a week, 100 policies in a week. But at that time, they had about 100 agents across the country that were doing about 20 or 30 as their kind of max or peak. And so my job was to go down there and show people that, hey, you actually can go write 50 in a week, 100 in a week, 150, 200, 250 in a week. And from there, basically kind of elevated into different levels of leadership, from a state manager to a regional manager to a national manager. And then about 4 years in, became part owner of that company.
Okay. And, you know, if I'm on the outside looking in and I'm hearing Tyler's story for the first time, I'm thinking, well, what happened? You were killing it. What happened? Why are you here now?
Well, I think the easy answer is because sometimes you're on the right track, but the wrong train.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to build a business in insurance, and none of them are right. None of them are wrong. None of them are good. None of them are bad. And a lot of it has to do with the timing. And for me, I started to hear about what was going on with Symmetry from Ashley. I got on a couple national calls. I started to feel what was going on. I could feel the momentum and the excitement and the very like laser focus on where they were headed. I got to be on the national or listen in on the national call when they announced the big 3-year plan and equity appreciation rights and all that. And to be honest, it's something that got inside of me. And every day that I spent doing what I was doing, it felt like a day that I should be spending over here. And it came to the point ultimately where it was a decision to sell my ownership in that business. And for those of you out there looking to sell a business during COVID, it's not the greatest idea. But for me, it was this realization that, yes, if I waited 2 years to sell that ownership, would it have been worth far more? Yes. But what I could accumulate over these next 24 months within this system at Symmetry, and what that will be worth 2 years from now, it's night and day. It'll be exponentially greater. And so that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And Ashley and I entered into some way more serious conversations about, you know, what would it look like to partner up, and your skill sets and my skill sets, and really do something big here.
Well, I love that. So what does it look like? What did y'all come up with? What has your role been over the past almost 9 months now? I think 9 or 10 months.
Yeah. Do you want to start, or you want me to
Sure.
go in?
I would say mainly Tyler's clear strength was training and recruiting agents where he formerly was. He was an exceptional producer, willing to put in that kind of work and get it done, make it happen, but ultimately was really responsible for generating and steering a large part of the growth that happened at his previous company. And so it naturally just made a lot of sense for him to assist in creating a similar but very different, a symmetry fitting system to really what we've been talking about as a company a lot this year. How do we find and then engage and activate our agents? How do we do that and really craft and put together a system that we are extremely excited about the results of that. I think one of the things that's true of Tyler where he was previously, was that he's a culture shifter. And that was something that needed to happen there within that organization in regards to just elevating the level of play. And I think as the Tarr agency for us coming into 2020, there'd been some loss, there'd been some kind of restructuring and people finding a new rhythm, and then COVID hit. And so I think what was incredibly powerful for us was just that the fresh wind, if you will, fresh perspective, fresh ideas, fresh energy coming in. I think it re-engaged and reignited a lot of the current agency. And it also became really powerful and attractive to folks who weren't here yet and needed to be. So that's what we've been working hard on.
Yeah, it's given me a very interesting perspective of having just been through the process of leaving one company within the industry, having any company to go to or partner with or work with in the industry, and having all those boxes that needed to be checked.
Sure.
To define the one that was the right fit for me, having just done that for myself, now being in that recruiting role, which is what I've done for the last 3.5 years, is recruited and then coached agents. For me to have just been through that, I know what they need to know, especially a high performer, a high level thinker. I know those boxes that they need checked. And now I can talk to them from hey, I just found this out and here's what I learned. And that's why I'm here. And if that resonates with them, it makes sense. It's really fun to be able to kind of step into that role, having just gone through it.
Well, I think it's obviously working exceptionally well too. I want to talk about credibility for a second, because I think that's always important when you see someone kind of come onto the scene like you have. We stopped at the 2,800 personal apps that you wrote back in 2013. When you moved into a leadership and recruiting role, you grew that company as part owner from 13,000 applications a year to over 56,000 applications in a year. I think there's a lot of credibility in that too. I also think that you've got quite the social media presence, Tyler. Let's talk about that for a second, man. I asked you this question earlier. What is your social media reach? And you said you've peaked at a weekly reach of 64 million people. Is that right?
Sounds right.
4 million people. Good grief. You have a total following. Okay, so your reach is different than your following. Obviously, total following of about 1.4, 1.5 million. And you told me something I thought was really cool too, that you've never monetized your social media following, right? You explain to people what that means.
Yeah. So for the longest time and still today, I say I have no idea why I do the stuff that I do on social media, but good things keep happening. And so from the very beginning, if you think about that story of needing to borrow the $100 to get my license to, making over 300 grand in commission in 12 months, like your life changed. Like, no, it's not about the money, but your life changes. And to continue to rise from there, for me, it was like this almost responsibility to pay that forward, because the reality is, if those guys had not come into my life, like breathe life back into me, confidence back into me, I would not have taken on that opportunity, and I wouldn't be here talking to you, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. And so if I could be that for somebody else, even to a small degree, that felt like not a burden, but a deep responsibility. And so that's all it was. It was just me putting stuff out, because what I saw was on social media, there's a gap, right? So if the average person in America wants to go online, specifically to social media, to learn something or just get motivated, inspired, they really only had two types of people they could go to. The first was the multi-millionaire, incredibly successful person, which is incredible. And we all learn from people like Matthew McConaughey in his book. Like, we learn incredible amounts of value from these people, but there's an element of it not being relatable, right? Because of their infrastructure and their lifestyle. It's like, it's great, but like, I can't really see myself there. Then you had the second person on social media, which is the person that's faking that they're the first. There was really nobody in the middle telling the real story of like, hey, the road to success is extremely difficult and it takes a long time and it's riddled with failures and ups and downs. And I wanted to be out there actually like being transparent and vulnerable and show like being on Facebook Live at 2 o'clock in the morning in tears because I'm in my parking lot going into my hotel room for the 11th night in a row on like 11 hours sleep. Like I wanted to get the real raw moments. And the craziest thing about all that is the people that were watching those Facebook Lives are David Drumgool and Eric Miller that we have on our call today. Literally, that's when they first found me on social media. But then all of a sudden an opportunity arises. They take that opportunity and now they're coming on board and building an incredible career here at Symmetry. So that's what it turned into, but
Yeah.
that was never the intent from day one.
Yep. It's good stuff, man. I've gotten a couple of texts that said, holy cow, 64 million and didn't monetize. Admirable, obviously. So I think the results can kind of begin to speak for themselves. You came in July or August, there was a good 90 days, probably, if not more of, kind of creating your own internal systems. The last 90 days, according to my numbers, 42 new contracts, 31 of them became new writers, first-time writers. 9 of them already, and there's still some time to go for several that turned into SNAs. That's a 30% plus move there. You've created $431,000 in premium with a $516 PPL over that same time frame. Ashley, that's just crazy results. I can't wait to hear exactly how you're doing some of those things. I know that we're gonna talk about it, but if you could kind of boil it down to a reason or two that could also be morphed into advice for somebody that would love to get those numbers, what would that be?
Gosh, I think the first piece of advice, that's also what happened and just what was really important was that Tyler got himself into Symmetry first. And so really before there was any trying to put the pieces of a new system or rethink anything together, it was really an immersion into what was currently going on and building relationships and really getting to know the new agent mentor figures who have been a huge part of this. Melissa Banning and Alex Wagner, Summer Friesen and Cherry Benton. Those ladies have been in an extremely significant role in this pilot and seeing what worked. But I think at first it was really understanding what is Symmetry about? How does it work? What's important here? How are the intricacies of the system same and different? And also who is the person that we're looking for? Because that avatar is likely different, building relationship. And then it really was about trying to back up enough out of the business, which is something that I hadn't done in a long time, to kind of look at the bigger picture and think through from the posture of being that new person who just needed a shot, because both of our stories are so similar in that we were both broke. We were both broken down in regards to our own self-confidence. We both had people, Danny Young for me, pour that belief and life back into me, really just reminding me who I am. And I think that's such an integral part of my story and Tyler's story. And so it naturally is it's the overflow when we're working with the folks that come through this system. As we began attracting people, it's very powerful, I think, for both of us to have that common goal. It's not about getting them to perform at a certain level for us. It's really about understanding who they are and where they are, and really trying to uncover if they know who they are, or if they need a reminder, and then pouring that life and just kind of wind back into their sails, but having a system in place that we could stand behind and know, like we always talk about, if you work the system in entirety, then there should be an outcome that says you win. And that's what we've put together, is a system that we believe attracts those people and then gives them the absolute best shot to nail it.
Love it.
You
Want
know,
to hear more about it?
for me, some of this will resonate, or some of you will resonate with this if you grew up in the church world, but there was always like the youth group at church that like, it was like, hey, come, we're going to have pizza and play games. I was like, yeah, I'll go have some pizza and play games. You get there, and then the next week you get there, it's like, we're going to have some games. I'm like, oh, that's cool, some games. And then like the third week, you're like, no pizza, no games, and it's serious. In this, like my entire life, like I've just like sought to make sure that what brought you here is what keeps you here, or like what brought you here is actually here when you get there. And so like we just take, like when someone chooses to come on board with Symmetry and come on board the Tarr agency, like we take that, their career, their life extremely seriously. And so that's just been my history. Like when you look at those numbers of going from 13,500 applications to 56,000, that sounds great. But what matters to me is the fact that it was 13,500 applications with 100 agents to 56,000 applications with 50 agents.
I didn't say that because I was afraid it was a typo when I got my notes.
Yeah. So
'Cause
like,
I talked to you about the numbers, but I didn't talk to you about the number of agents. That's ridiculous.
so when we look at that as like our responsibility as leaders, those 50 agents were making an incredible living. The average was like the median, mean, like it was all pretty across the board, and people like, and they could count on it. Like it felt like a career. And so that's what we want to, like, we want people to come on board and for this to feel like, man, this is my career. This is like the next 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And like, that's the level of support that we want to provide, not just attract them with, and then like, hey, figure it out, but like attract them with, and then even over deliver on what we've promised.
I love it, man. Last question, comment, statement. You started speaking from stage, Ashley, 5 years ago.
Gosh, that's crazy.
At our national conferences. I think that you have spoken at every conference that we've had since that time. And we're doing a little something special for this upcoming conference, huh?
Yeah, we are. A little secret up our sleeve.
Yeah, you got your little partner in crime.
Might have a partner. Sure did. Yeah, and I'm so grateful. It was actually crazy when you asked that earlier, like how many years. It's crazy to think that it's been that long. And I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to ever stand on that stage. This year was it was a very powerful, special moment for me because of the partnership. I think, the reality is that is a moment that our primary job when we're up there is always to tie together what's happening now, where we're headed now, what we're excited about now, and the path that we took to get where we are. And so for me this year, there was zero possibility of truthfully telling the story of where we are and what we're excited about without Tyler being a significant piece of that, because the reality is behind the scenes with COVID preventing our tours and our blitzes and all the meetings where we would typically fellowship and see one another, Tyler would have been there. We didn't have those this year. And so, he has been partnered in the business and building the business with me and a very integral part of everything that's happening now within the agency. So that was the truest way for that presentation to be made. And I believe more powerful because of it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you want me to say anything, but I'm beyond honored to have been able to just be given the opportunity to speak. It's not something that I expected or like felt deserving of in any way. I think the way I've always looked at this business, and I think it's an important thing to mention, is when you look at credibility, a lot of times in this business, you have leaders that are basing all of their challenge and all of their motivation and what they're bringing in as far as energy based on past credibility. And a lot of times you can be within an organization And if you look at the analogy with sports, it's easy, right? Like you got a guy that plays in the NBA, has an incredible career, finals MVP, becomes a Hall of Famer, then becomes a coach. And at that point, that coach can base it off past credibility because he's a Hall of Famer. He's got the stats, he's got all that. But all of us are still in the game. Like we're still in the game. Like we like current credibility is everything. Like I don't care what you did. What are you doing right now? And honestly, I stayed in the field a little bit too long because it made me so uncomfortable to tell someone what they should be doing and for them not to see me on the leaderboard that week. That felt like a notch off of my credibility. So coming into this, like I just wanted to be able to really introduce myself to people as like, holy crap, I'm so excited to be here. Like I'm so fired up about this opportunity and what you all have created, like what you all have plowed the fields, because what I did with my last company, you guys have been doing here for 3, 5, 10 years. And for me to be able to take what I've done and partner with Ashley and for us to be able to do that within this system is literally a dream come true.
That's awesome. Well, I will just say that I am so happy for both of you that you're able to kind of find each other and create what you are creating with each other. That's one of the best parts about this business for so many people, you know, is that you do get to share it. It's such a big part of everyone's lives that you want that. So I'm very happy for both of you that you get to do that. And I think I'm, you know, even more happy for everybody that's going to have an opportunity to get to know you, Tyler, you know, get to know you guys together as partners. And I think we're going to start with that today because you spoke of results. And I think so far, Ashley, there've been some phenomenal results. I think the three folks that we have on today, you've got Jaime, Whitney, all of these within really the past 60 to 90 days. Jaime Whitney, over $30,000 of production created thus far. David Drumgool from Sarasota, Florida, right at 60,000 in production so far. And then Eric Miller from Baltimore, Maryland, just shy of 80,000. Those are the three that are with us. We have a few more that you've already kind of turned into SNAs. And I think I'm just so excited for David, Jaime, and Eric to kind of have their first chance to speak, but really excited about what they're about to go through, you know, because once you figure out that you can do this business, there is nothing more exciting, and I can keep getting better and better and better. And I can crank up that activity, and that, 30,000 in a month can turn to 50,000 in a month. More importantly, it could turn to 30 more people doing, 10, 20, 30,000 a month themselves. And the impact that you can make in this business is unlike anything I've ever been a part of. So I'm really excited for the impact that you guys are about to make on a lot of people. So I will shut up, turn it over to you guys. Ashley, Tyler, I want you to introduce our new folks here. Excited to hear what they have to say. Appreciate you guys being on.
We'll do it.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity and the introduction of Tyler and us as a partnership here. David and Jaime and Eric, you guys can go ahead and turn your cameras on if you want. We'll see your faces.
This feels like some weird game show or something. And today's contestants. Dun, 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 dun.
What's up, guys? So grateful to have you on. I'll start by saying I'm Ashley Tarr. I am direct to Danny Young, the one and the only, also to Symmetry Financial, and incredibly grateful to be mentored by Danny and Sandy Young the entirety of my insurance career, going on 10 years now. And just exceptionally grateful to be a part of this company and to be able to share so proudly what we have with the world is really cool. And you three are definitely three that have made us extremely proud by the way that you've come in and really dug into the system, and not just dug into the system for yourselves, but very, very naturally and readily and really without being asked, you've already started to pour yourselves back out and add, I would say, value and energy and life and fire to the rest of the team. So that's something that Tyler and I are both just exceptionally grateful for, and also just aware that the greater Symmetry team is going to benefit from knowing you guys just like we are. So
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
All right. So here's the deal. One of my old mentors used to always tell me that a short pencil is better than a long memory. And the reality is, like, over the next, 45 minutes, 30 minutes or so, we are going to give you the blueprint when it comes to building an agency like a business. We're going to give you the blueprint as to how we're doing that. And I'm super fired up, super excited about it. But I want you guys to take some notes through this, because it's going to be kind of the skeleton of what we're doing, kind of from a 30,000 foot view. But you guys will be able to fill in the gaps based on how you run your agency and how you're building ultimately your business. So I'm fired up.
Cool. I'll kick us off with just kind of an overview for those of you listening, to understand the mindset. A couple of things that are important to us as we're thinking about building an agency, as we're thinking about recruiting. I think if you were to kind of boil it down, you would find these principles at the baseline of that. The first is an awareness that we're building our business. Yes, we're also building Symmetry. And because of that, if that's the mindset that we're taking on as we're recruiting, then Symmetry's core values and the things that matter to Symmetry and the way we go about having those conversations is obviously going to be through the filter of what we stand for as a company. I would say the second kind of a motivator driver thing that's in our minds is stewardship of the people that are going to be in our care if they decide to partner with us. And that may be an interesting way to think about it for some people, but I firmly believe that leadership is much more of a responsibility than it is a title or a bragging right or a privilege. It means then that now I have a responsibility for those people. And so as we talk about attraction in a moment, and as we talk about recruiting and building, it's with the mindset, not of just a people grab. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to reach as many people as possible with this message. Actually, I think we should be doing that. But I think it should be with the understanding that those aren't people for me to have. You hear the term "my people" a lot, and I think it's just it may not be the most helpful way of thinking about that or of saying that, because the reality is, if we are recruiting someone, then now we owe them something. We owe them our best. We owe them the same chance that we had. We have now a responsibility to steward that relationship to the best of our ability. Obviously, it still has to be within the system framework. And so really for Tyler and I, as we were thinking through, how do we put the system together? It has to be a system, and that there can't be pieces of it that are too person dependent. At the same time, that has to be married with an understanding that we as leadership are now responsible to serve the people that we bring on. And so how do we do that effectively, and how do we do that well? And we're going to be breaking down attraction, which is our philosophy behind recruiting, is attracting the right people. And then once they're attracted and in, how do we engage those people? And then third, once they're engaged and they're functioning as part of the system, how do we activate them? How do we get them successful? Get them successful on the phones, get them successful in the home, on Zoom, however we want to term that, and then just put that on repeat and develop SNAs and beyond. So we'll start with attraction, and I will kick it to you.
All right. So guys, again, you're going to hear a common theme throughout this conversation on building in regards to attraction, because a lot of people will ask, like when it comes to social media, they'll say, hey, how do you use social media to recruit? Or, hey, how are you recruiting on social media? And I would simply say back, I'm not, or I don't recruit on social media. I attract on social media. And what I attract is people that are like-minded, because I'm just putting out stuff that I like, or that I believe, or that I think is important, or think is beneficial. And the ones that are attracted to that are probably the similar type people. And when they're the ones asking the question about the career opportunity versus you asking them a question, if they're open to a conversation about a career opportunity, it's a very different dynamic. So that's what we want to do, is like we literally want to flip recruiting on its head and think of how can we get people attracted to us, which then gets into the deeper part of the conversation, which is how do we become attractive, right? And so when you think about being attractive, one of the core principles that we live by is that transformation is far greater than information. People are far more attracted to transformation than information. And the cool thing about that is like, no matter where you are in the business on this call today, you could be like, this is the first national call you've ever been on, or you could be here for 6 years in a big rut. Transformation over information. Transformation can start right now. It can start any moment. It can happen over any period of time, but you can change and other people can see that change in you. I talk about social media a lot because it's what I love and know as far as how to get that out into the world. If you have a better way to get that change that's happening in you out to the world, like with conversations, with whatever it is, by all means do that. But social media is just an easy example because, as a practical tip, if for the next 30 days you were to put a post on Facebook, Instagram, whatever you like, that simply was day 2 of reasons I'm grateful for my career, and had an actual like thoughtful thing that you're grateful for about this job, do you not think that after 30 days of telling people why you're just grateful for the job that you have, for the career that you have, for the business that you run, do you not think that somebody somewhere, either someone you know is going to reach out, or someone that you know might have somebody else that they know is going to reach out? Of course they will. And you will have attracted that person to you, and they're going to be wanting information rather than you recruiting them, being shoving information down their throat, and then having the sense of urgency of, we got to have a call. We got a few more spots left. Hey, we need to get you in before the end of the month. That's the worst part about recruiting. The best part about recruiting is when it's just a conversation. Like, hey man, what's going on with you? Because I don't know, like over the last few months, like I've seen you on your Instagram stories, like I've seen your posts about how grateful you are, like man, like something's going on. And when you tell them why, which is why, I mean, I don't know, like I get starting this new business, I'm fired up about it. I'm seeing some success. Like I'm bringing people on that want to build a business with me every day. It's irrefutable, right? Like they can't say like, no, you're not. No, you're not excited about your job. No, you're not passionate about this new career. They can't say that, right? Like, and if they're not into it, like if that's not their thing and they're not interested, it's not going to hurt your feelings because you're just telling them what's different. But that creates the most amazing warm market feeling conversation about the opportunity with someone that could basically just have followed you for who knows what reason a year and a half ago. But a prime example of this is David Drumgool, because he had been following me for some time and we had never had any conversations. And timing is everything, right? Like all of a sudden I posted something about the career opportunity with Symmetry and it hit him at the right time and he was the right person and he was attracted to it, not recruited into it. And then his story from here is going to be an incredible story. And I want him to be able to tell that specifically. So David, thank you, number one, for being on the call, but just thank you for being an absolute honor and blessing to work with as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. This is incredible.
So what we want to start with as we bring you guys on is if you just want to give your name, which we've already said, but your name, where you're from, who you're direct to, and how long you've been in the business. And then maybe just a quick statement of what you're most excited about right now.
Yeah, like you guys said, I'm Dave Drumgool. I live here in Sarasota, Florida, and, I'm direct to Ashley and Tyler here. Officially, I came on board midway through December. That's when I came onto Symmetry, did all my licensing in November, but from when I was actually able to put my foot in the water and start dialing and see what was going to happen, that was about halfway through December. The biggest thing that I'm excited about is legacy. You know, the opportunity to be able to build a legacy, not only within my family, but within the business that I'm building. And then also the culture. You know, this organization is Symmetry and Whole is just a breeding ground for success, you know, by the way that it draws people in, and it draws the very best of people. And it's just a breeding ground for success. So those are the things that I'm most excited about here.
That is awesome. Guys, like it's so hard to like contain our excitement when we see these guys, because like David's story is so incredible and it will resonate with so many people. But he came on board, and you know, we do a daily huddle in the mornings, and for the first 2 weeks, you know, a lot of times people are in their car, they're at home, wherever. He would be in a car with a jumpsuit on that had his name, and then he'd be sitting there at the steering wheel, and the next thing you know, he would just take the steering wheel off and set it down on the seat next to him, and then he'd be up underneath the hood working on it, because he was working his full-time job at the service department of the Mercedes dealership. But he was on every single call, never missed it, even though like he's crawling underneath engines and all this stuff. Quits his full-time job like 2 weeks later, jumps on Zoom day one as this being full-time in a tie, suspenders. I can't believe he's like not backing me up by wearing it today, but tie, suspenders, like every day on the call, and he's killing it. And like now he's recruited people that are in sales at Mercedes to come on board the Symmetry. But to see him just like step into the culture and step into the system, and to like literally see the confidence just like brewing in him, it's been absolutely phenomenal to watch.
Yeah, it has been incredible, David. And I think, you know, one of the things that I'd like to hear from you is, what was the most attractive thing to you? We're talking about attraction, and that's something when we are recruiting, when we're out there, whether it's warm market or cold market, advertisements, messages that we're putting out, or conversations that we're having, because attraction can happen any kind of way, really. What were the things that you were most attracted to?
The biggest thing that I was attracted to was influence. You know, like Tyler said, I followed him for probably 3 years prior to joining this. And in my own personal life, I had walked through some pretty nasty things, you know, between my marriage, between personally, and I was on a mission for change, and I knew I wanted to change my life. And I found guys like, you know, like Tyler, and I leaned into that. Like every post that he, you know, was posting, it was always change. And then I seen the success that he had, and I was like, all right, how does this guy have this kind of success and is always constantly changing, is always constantly leveling up? And that's what I wanted. And I made a mission, like when I entered into 2020, I was like, you know what, no matter what, by the end of this year, I'm not going to be a mechanic anymore. Like, I'm just not going to do it, because the culture that was there was so toxic, and I felt like it was just drowning myself. So I did. I just continued praying and said, you know, Lord, you open the doors that you want me to walk through. And things that I had tried to go into, they didn't pan out. They didn't have the opportunities that I needed to be able to support my family. And it was in October last year, I just seen a post from Tyler, and I sent him a DM, and I was like, this guy's got, I don't know how many thousands of followers. He's never going to see this. He's never going to read it. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning. He responds back to me, and he's like, dude, come on board. We're doing this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm in. And at that point, like, I knew that door had opened. And I was like, I don't care what, I didn't even really know what it was. All I knew is it had something to do with insurance. I had no clue. But the only thought that I thought in my mind was, whatever he's doing, I want to be doing that, because that's someone who is always on the, you know, is always seeking change, is always seeking better for his life. And it's just carry this around, this influence behind him that is so incredible. And I just want to be a part of it. If I can just be in his presence, or, you know, learn more from him, that's what I want to do. I had no clue that this opportunity was available, and that, I mean, you'd have this kind of success. And but yeah, I mean, it's hard to boil it down. It was the influence that really attracted me to this.
I think what's so key in that is what we're talking about in regards to attraction is really being the kind of person that would be attractive to the kind of person that you want to attract. And that's essentially what you just said. And so if we know, for example, that the people, and I felt like the national call could have been over after Jeremy's spotlight, because that was so clutch. Every single word was so powerful, and it was said with such extreme humility. Jeremy, I'm grateful for that. The message of personal development and a commitment to that, that's something that all of us at Symmetry would say, yeah, I internalize that. That's something that I value for my life. It's also something that I would value for the folks that I want to bring on board. You talk about personal responsibility or taking ownership of your life, or any of these things that I believe that we at Symmetry could all say, yeah, we stand behind that. So if that's the case, then one of the biggest takeaways is make sure that you are on loudspeaker. You're being that to your community. Again, whether it's through social media or not, because not everyone is going to have a massive following, but everybody can choose to very deliberately and clearly say with their life who they are. And that's going to be attractive to the right kind of people. So I love that about your story, David. I also love the fact that you're in that quest yourself personally, and I honor you for that. The second question that I would have for you is, what were you attracted to once you were here? Because it would be false for everyone listening to think that your story was only easy. You've written like 41 applications in just over 60 days, and I mean, you're killing it. But we also know that's represented a significant amount of work and challenge and obstacle as well. So unpack what it's been that's been the most attractive to you as you've gone through your launch phase.
I think the easiest way, you know, that I can sum it up as far as what I'm attracted to while I'm here is the opportunity. You know, it's the opportunity to build that legacy. And there's an endless amount of it here. It's like, if you just lean in to the coaching, follow the system, like you can achieve anything. Like my mission, my goal in life is I want to be able to help as many people as I can, you know, whether that's, you know, financially, or whether that's helping them cross the street. Like, that's just what I want to help people. And I can help so many people by leaning into this system and actually doing it. And by doing that, I've developed a passion for this. Like, when I meet with a family, like, it's a passion of mine now to sit down with them and go over the options and the opportunities and show them how we can help. Because I can leave that and go, wow, man, these people have, I mean, I don't even know if they understand what we just set up for them. This is incredible. I mean, the guy I just helped yesterday, you know, we developed a plan that we can, you know, he can pay his mortgage off 10 years early. Like, that's incredible. And I mean, giving me a hug, like that's the relationships that I love to build, and knowing that I get to help people by just leaning into the system and following what works, following what the opportunities presented itself for me.
David, the thing I love about this is that, like, this whole idea of attraction, like it's a continuous cycle. So you were attracted here, and then we'll go into the next pieces that you went through, and we'll bring on Jaime and Eric for that. But you have been through a change, and you are a different person. There has been a transformation that has occurred.
Oh yeah.
And now people are seeing it, and they're reaching out to you. And so,
yeah.
I mean, in a nutshell, like, how would you say you're different now than you were 90 days ago working at Mercedes?
That's easy. It's 90 days ago. Like I had no motivation. I was depressed. Like I've suffered from depression for the last three years, and I've hid it from everybody. Anxiety, overwhelmed. I honestly didn't care about anything, because I felt like my passion in life had gone. You know, I've got a wife and 3 kids, and that wasn't even enough. And I was like, you know, I'm just missing something here. And from the moment that I stepped on, and I'm sorry if I kind of get teary-eyed over this, but from the moment that I stepped on and like leaned into you, Ashley, and leaned into Tyler, and leaned into my, you know, Cherry and Melissa and Summer, and Alex and everybody else on this team, it sparked a passion inside of me, and it reignited my life. And, you know, even on my social media, I've got less than 200 followers. I don't have near the kind of following that Tyler does. I don't have near the kind of following that some of these other people do. And just by the content that I started to put out, just by the message and what I put on my stories, I've got people who I haven't heard from in 10 plus years reaching out to me going, what's different? Like it used to just be random. It used to just be this, but like now it's all positive, motivating, uplifting. Like, aren't you in music? Aren't you in this? Like, nah, man, dude, this industry that I'm in, this is legit. And I get to share with them my story. I get to share with them like how far I've come. And sure, there's doubt like on the other end. They're, you know, yeah, well, it's just kind of a phase. And it's like, no, it's not a phase. This is what's going to come for the rest of my life. And I'm just so excited to share with you. And they've reached back out, and like I've been able to do interviews with them, and they're in the same spot that I was 90 days ago. You know, I don't have extra money right now to get a license. I don't know if I want to purchase leads. I don't know if I want to do that. Like, well, I mean, radical change requires radical change. And that's what I wanted in my life. And well, I got it because I leaned into it.
Yeah, it's so good. And what I want everybody to hear, and we're going to move on to the next topic here. What I want everybody to hear is when he talks about influence, your influence has nothing to do with how many followers you have. Whether you don't even have an Instagram account, like none of that matters. Like the influence that you have is the influence that you have. Like that, like go deeper, not wider. Like be who you are, and you will attract people that are similar, and you will attract people that are like-minded. But the power in that story is that I didn't know David 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 120 days ago. We had never met. But how many Davids are on your Facebook friends list right now? How many Davids are in your phone right now? Davids that are depressed, that are literally needing this business as a lifeline and are looking for an opportunity. And you just haven't had the guts to share it with them because it's felt awkward, or because you haven't had the success yet to feel like you have credibility. But they're one conversation away from you changing their life, which is what we're seeing with David. And now David will see with the people that are now contacting him. So once we attract the people by just being a product of this business and a product of this system and culture, then we have to engage them in the system. And that's going to be a critical part of ultimately getting that person to a successful career.
Yeah, well said.
So we're going to take Eric Miller on the scene. You want to talk about Eric?
You go for it.
Eric.
Kick us off.
So Eric came on the scene, and again, it was one that was attracted to what we were doing. Literally sent me a message that was like, bro, what in the world have you got going on? And I'm like, oh, I'm glad you asked. And 4 days later, he came to a boot camp that we were doing in Nashville. He had just submitted his onboarding packet like 24 hours before, didn't have his license, but was reared up and ready to go. But what I love about what Eric said was Eric very much wanted to build this like a business. And when we did our kind of testimonies at the end of the boot camp and what was your biggest takeaway, he's just like, I want to be up there teaching other people how to do what we do. And so that's what I want. And everyone was kind of like, well, it kind of looked like he was, you know, hey, kind of puffing his chest out a little bit. But he literally did that. He came on board. He nailed the system. He like excellence in every single thing, but mainly his effort and accountability. Like every single thing that he said he was going to do, he did. He's become a leader in our organization just over these last 60 days. And I could not be more fired up to have him on the call. What's up, Eric?
What's up, Tyler? Ashley, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Hey, tell everybody where you're from, who you're direct to, how long you've been here, and what you're most fired up about.
Yeah, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, one of the safer cities in the country, if you want to come visit. I am direct to Tyler and Ashley here, honored for that. And I'm pumped up, honestly, just to see, I mean, David said it, legacy. Like that's like I changed my Instagram handle. I put the word legacy in there. You know, I'm a single dad with a 13-year-old. I'm just looking at, I like the next, not just me be okay and retire and be comfortable, but like my grandkids, being able to say, hey, we're good because grandpa 5 generations up did something special, saw an opportunity, went all in, and now there's that legacy, the trust fund babies that everybody makes fun of. So that's what I'm looking to create here.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so, it reminds me so much of what I've experienced from you, which is just this ability to focus and do the really granular work of the system, but always keep that bigger picture in your mind. And I've seen that really from step one with you, the way that you've approached, hey, how do I get there? You had a very clear vision of what you wanted this to be for you and mean to you. But you've not been unwilling to also look straight down and do the work that's required to get there. And I think so often when newer folks come into the system, there can be a tendency to do one or the other, to get so granular and so kind of bogged down in the minutia that there's a failure to look up, or to just kind of point and stare where you want to be, and an unwillingness to do the brutal work that is required to get there a lot of the time. So we've appreciated so much the way that you have come in, and really been extremely humble. You've never really done insurance before significantly, but you've done sales quite a bit, and you've been extremely successful in sales before, but you didn't bring massive ego in either, which has been, I think that for me in this engagement piece was one of the reasons why I wanted you to really talk about the ways that you have engaged very intentionally, because I think you're one who is strong enough to kind of get in the groove and figure this thing out without being on a daily huddle every week. And so talk a little bit about, just to the person out there who's a high performer, who's going to be a type A, go get it done, make it happen, who doesn't necessarily feel the need for the team around them all the time. And I would raise my hand and say that was me when I started. I had a very narrow focus. I had a very self-focus with that. And I didn't see a whole lot of need for things like daily huddles. I'm not sure that I would have approached it like you have, to be quite honest. And so it's been awesome to watch that, but talk a little bit about that. Why was that important to you to really plug into all of the parts and pieces of the system?
Sure, 100%. I mean, the big thing, Tyler said it yesterday, it resonated with me, the concept of fast alone, far together. And I'd never really heard that before, but then I was like, holy cow. And that's like part of the engagement, is like every day engaging with my fellow agents, with my leadership, my coaches, all that, because it could just be 2 words or 1 line that you can hear that you never heard before that can just trigger something and just totally shift what you're doing. And a big thing for me is engaging, like, sure, maybe I could have just done what I've done by myself, maybe, but I would have done it alone. And, that's part of what attracted me here was I wanted friends. Like I could have like friends and people, but I wanted people that I actually, like, when I want to show up and have, and Tyler, me and him joke about this in our interview, and like, we want to hire people that we want to actually sit down and have dinner with. Like when somebody comes up, in Costa Rica, I don't want to go to Costa Rica alone. I don't want to show up there and be like, I don't know any of these people. I want to like look around and be like, we've been running together for this past year, fist bumps, all that good stuff. And just, it's that energy. It's just, because I don't wake up every day feeling 100%, like I just want to go rock and roll. But when my group text, David and Jaime and Chase and, messages, what's going on, how we doing, like pumping me up before we even get on our daily huddle. So just always having that energy around you, it's just a lot more fun. I mean, I didn't just do this for the money. I did it because I want to have fun. I want more out of life. The people I used to work, I was a car salesman. I don't like any of the people that I worked with. They come in the break room and I'm trying to eat lunch. I'm turning the other way, just want to hurry up and eat, and, get out and go sell another car or something. But now it's like, I've had dinner with David, I've flown to Florida and had dinner with him, Jaime, can't wait to have a dinner with you, things like that. I want to have people to live life with. And the biggest thing is like-minded people. There's so much negativity and division and things out there, but it's like everybody I'm meeting here, we all came here for the same reason. we've got so much in common, and now we can accentuate each other instead of like that crab mentality. You know, not one makes it out of the bushel because they're all pulling each other down. Like we're all like, hey, let's go, and boosting each other up. So it just keeps me fired up more so than a good cup of coffee. So
I love it. And here's the cool thing. So when we go from attraction or attract to engagement, or to the engaging part of this business, as you attract somebody in and you take them through a actual recruiting process, if you think about their level of excitement, right? They're hearing about the business, they're excited, they're having an interview, a conversation, they're more excited, they're seeing some videos, they're more excited. But when you call them to tell them, hey, we'd love for you to come on board, like that's at the peak of their excitement about this business, right? And what happens so often that we see in this business is then we tell them there, hey, go get your license. We'll see you in a month, maybe. And so then they go from this level of excitement to the valley of death, and they go study for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And we know the statistics after a week, the ones that are actually going to follow through and get that test completed, who knows? But at the very least, we have to get them from over here passing the exam and bring them back up to that level of excitement that they had when they first came on board, which is almost impossible after getting back into study mode for the first time, maybe in 10 years. So the quicker we can engage them, the second that they're the most excited, engage them in a daily huddle, engage them so that they're meeting people from across the country that are in the same stage of the business that they're in. It's a fact that you will quit on yourself way faster and way sooner than you'll quit on somebody else. So when Eric met David and they became buddies, do you think when David had a really, really, really bad day and felt like enough of this, I'm done with it, take me back to the garage, it's over. His ability to actually follow through on that, knowing that he's also going to be quitting on Eric, it's not going to happen because he has relationships and because he is engaged in the system. So the key is once you attract them, you have to plug them in because you get the most out of what you get or what you put the most into. So when you start engaging with the group, and we have different ways that our whole team communicates, but they're jumping in there and they may know nothing about insurance, but they can encourage, they can celebrate, they can say, hang in there, good luck on your next dial session. They can do that kind of stuff. And then when it comes to a point where they need it, when they have a bad day, of course, those people are going to reciprocate because they've been on their side so many times throughout those days. So the engagement piece is massively important because this is a business where we tell people you're in business for yourself, not by yourself. But there are often times, even within the best agencies, that people will feel by themselves. And they need to know that you're not just saying things like, reach out to me if you need me, that you actually like mean it. And like, sometimes you just want to tell them like, hey, call me tomorrow if you need me. They're like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm like, if you need me tomorrow, you're going to call me. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, do you know that if tomorrow you need me, you can call me? Like, it's like like really supporting these people because it's a big deal, especially to make a career change and to come into something completely new. And if you've had success before in a different industry, like it's a lot. And so the more that we can be hands-on and support these people, the better their chance of success is. And that's why our focus, when you look at our numbers, that's where our focus is making sure when they do come on board, that my goodness, they better write a policy because trust is built in conversations like this. Initially, you're building credibility. I believe what this person is telling me is true. But ultimately, trust is only like truly built when a commission is deposited into their account. And that's when it flips from an engagement to an activation or activating. And that's what we want to roll to last year, guys.
Yes, we are going to roll right into it. And I'm going to try to do this as lightning fast as we can and still hear everything we need to hear from Jaime Whitney, because I'm telling you, this woman is a force. Do not let that smile fool you. She is every bit as much a killer as anything else. But Jaime, I've loved seeing, I've really loved seeing your approach to the business from day one. It was very methodical. There was a lot of attention to detail because I believe this is something that you were taking really seriously. This is something that you identified early on as something that you were going to put yourself into. And from what I've come to know about you, you don't really do anything halfway. And so that what that meant was it wasn't a decision for you to try this out or to see if it worked, to kind of float it. It was a decision to do this thing. And what I've loved seeing is that that decision that you made has held true in the weeks that you've had incredible results. Like this weekend, I think you just went out and threw up 10,000 on Saturday for the fun of it, which was cool to see. But the reality is you've brought that same focus and intention and the same attitude to the weeks where you've put a goose egg on the board. And I've watched your attitude and emotions stay the same, which to me has been probably the most impressive thing. There's been a lot that's impressed me about you, but that's probably the most impressive thing, because it's exceptionally hard to do. To be so rooted and grounded in who you are and where you are and what you're capable of, that the bad days don't even faze you. You keep walking. So I love that. But when we come to activation, I remember that the first time I met you was a boot camp in the early part of December. We were social distancing. We were kind of spread out around this house, and you slid in there to our live dial session without leads. And I believe the thought process was that if I don't bring leads, maybe I won't have to dial, which didn't work out for you that well. But
she was totally cool. She was just like, yeah, no big deal, dial session. Like, I'm gonna watch and check it out.
Yeah, I think she made her first dials with an audience on leads that I had like 6 years old or something. And you set appointments, but talk to us a little bit just about run through who you're direct to and where you live, and what you were doing prior. And then I want to dig into the specific things you've done to activate that have made you successful.
Thank you, Ashley. Super honored to be on this call, honestly. I'm like only 12 weeks in, I can't believe it. But I'm Jaime, I'm direct to Melissa Banning. If you're out there, I love you. I started in December of 2020, like halfway through December. And prior to coming here, I did mortgages and real estate really for the last 10 years. So it's funny, we're talking about that boot camp, and I had been like being a real estate agent, I cold called all the time. And then doing mortgages, I worked with Quicken Loans and Loan Depot, and it was all online and over the phone. So there was no reason for me to be nervous about dialing, but I sure as heck was.
You were, and I remember your takeaway from that boot camp. You were a little bit, I don't want to say hesitant, but I don't think you were thinking it was going to be very fun when you came to the boot camp. But talk about what that time, both with the team and with instruction, meant for you and your business.
Yeah, so when I went to the boot camp, it was literally like a mile from my house. So there's no reason, like I could have walked there, like I had to be there. And I kind of went in with like an eyebrow up, and I was just like, oh, let's just see like if these people are legit. And it was awesome. Like Eric was there, David was there. So I feel like it was just this huge catalyst for my business. And the dial sesh, like I remember when Tyler posted up in the chat, he was like, this is what we're going to do on Friday. And then Saturday, we're going to do a dial clinic. And I was just like, okay, good thing I don't have opt access, and good thing I don't have any leads. So I'm good to go. And the night before, like Friday night, we all went out to dinner. I low-key tried to get out of it. I asked Alex, she was sitting like right next to me. I'm like, so do I have to go tomorrow? Like, should I just show up at 12 after the dial clinic? And she's like, oh no, just come. And then Ashley, of course, was like, oh no, everyone's dialing here, so let's go. And it really just like, I know my work ethic, I would have dialed. Like if I didn't dial that night, I was going to as soon as I got opt access. But because we did it as a team and like together, and I had like, it was more uncomfortable than it was going to be if I just locked myself in my room. Like I feel like I got all these jitters out just because we did that dial clinic on Saturday. And it just made me realize like this actually isn't scary. It's nothing to be afraid of. And I'm so glad that you pushed us, you like pushed us into the deep end. You're like, nope, this is happening. And it really just you know, it was a huge catalyst for my business, to say the least.
Yeah, I think, you know, one thing to just think about for those of you all listening, when you consider activation, I would say there's two main hurdles that you're trying to help your new agent overcome. And the more system dependent you can make this, the better, because you can only help one person at a time. And this is speaking from experience. If the coaching cue is, hey, call me before you start your dials, that works unless you have 10 people or even 5 people, much less 20 or 50 trying to call at the same time. So if that's not going to be impactful, you know, whether it's a virtual dial team, which Jaime, now you're one of the ringleaders in the organization with starting the dial parties, whether it's something on Zoom where as an organization, you guys create a dial party, open that up, everybody's muted while they're dialing. If coaching needs to happen, you can peel off in a private room and coach through, or everyone can listen to one dial that so-and-so makes and sets. But the whole point with activation, I think from our perspective, is if you have to do these things that are mundane, that are not fun, where you potentially could lose a lot of agents if they're not successful, or even if it's not that they're not successful, they just have an opportunity to get in their own head about it. Dialing is one of the main ways where people just have an opportunity to get in their own head. And Jaime, I've loved the fact that you've taken advantage of the boot camp dial clinic, which would just represent like I know a lot of folks, Airs in Sicily, used to do a live dial team on Friday or Saturday. If that is possible in person, great. If not, do it virtually, but make the things that feel like a heavy load for a new person, which picking up the phone every time does, make it fun. And if you make those things fun, the chance of people wanting to repeat that behavior is going to go up exponentially than if they're dreading it every time. As basic as that sounds, it's it really, really has been awesome. James, go for it.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, when I think of activation, like I think of at that boot camp, we at the end, everybody's giving their biggest takeaway. And I remember something Jaime said to the effect of, like, I came to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing, but I left realizing I could do it. And like, when I think of activation, I think of that moment when it goes from learning what I have to do, learning what I need to say, learning what I'm supposed to do, to realizing I can actually do this. And now we're in a position, because of COVID being virtual, to where that can happen so much faster. But the activation part is when it goes from your head to your heart, right? It goes from this knowledge, I just learned about insurance, to this exam, now I'm learning all this scripting, all that. But when it goes to your heart is when it's like, okay, now I believe I can do it. I'm passionate about what I'm doing, and I just want to go take care of people. And that's where we ultimately want to get to. We've only got a couple more minutes. Is there anything you wanted to say on activation before? No. One thing that I wanted to kind of wrap this up with, and I really appreciate the three of you guys being on here, and I'm just super pumped to be able to do business and life with each and every one of you. And I wanted to give specifically a shout out to our coaches at the Tarr Agency. Because none of this, when we talk about our systems and processes, like, they're the ones in the weeds with us, making this thing happen and making each one of these success stories happen as well. But when you think about this, attract, engage, activate, we literally are a few weeks away from the greatest opportunity that Symmetry has ever had to attract people to this business. I want to really break that down for you. So think about this. For 10 years now, in order to come to the national conference, you had to buy a ticket, flight, hotel, then go in a room with a bunch of weirdos that are all fired up about something that you're, quite frankly, probably skeptical about, right? Like, you would never do that. Now, the ability to jump on a link and use a code to get access to the entire thing from their couch in their pajamas. Like, think about all the people that are going to get on this thing with 100% certainty that they're going to poke holes through it. They're going to make fun of it. They're going to call you afterwards and tell you what a crazy person you are for being involved in this. They're going to hear the first speaker and they're going to have their mind blown. They're going to hear Marlon. They're going to hear Jimmy Spildinner. They're going to hear like Brad and Brian. Like they're going to hear some of the most incredible speeches they've ever heard. Then they're going to see the vision of everything that's happening within our company and within the industry and how it perfectly intersects for them if they had an opportunity in mind. Like they're going to call you back, and there are going to be people that are going to call you back. And this is the definition of attraction. They're going to call you back a day after the virtual conference. And they're going to say something like this. Hey, Tyler. Hey, what's up, Brad? I'm in. You're in trouble? You're in what's up? No, I'm in, like the symmetry thing. What do you mean you're in? I was on the conference. You were on the conference? Yeah, the whole thing, me and my wife. And you're in. Okay, cool. How do I get a license? And like, so you have now attracted to them, and every single person that gets on there for 10 minutes or the entire time will come back to you and have more questions. And we'll come back to you at the very least and have people in mind that you should talk to. But most importantly, get your family and friends on this conference. People around you need to know what's going on inside your business. People need to know why you're so excited, why you're so passionate. And quite frankly, they need to know why you're sacrificing time potentially with them and sacrificing so much for this business. They need to know why. They just don't, you don't know what you don't know. When they get on this conference, they will see and they will call you and at the very least go, holy crap, man, I had no idea. Go run. And that's the best thing that you could possibly hear from a family member or a friend or someone that you really do value their time, but your time is limited now. And now they will understand and they will make that time for you when you need it. Like those are the things that this conference is going to create for all of us if we take advantage and shove this link out every possible place that we can to get people the opportunity to jump on without you knowing.
Well, we will land the plane here because I think we've gone a little bit over time, but thank you all, you three, so much for being on with us. I appreciate Todd, Brandon, Casey, Brian, the opportunity to be on here and share just a little bit about what we've been excited about and what we're doing. And like Tyler said, I think we've got such a remarkable opportunity as a company to do something that's never been done. Like 10,500, I think was the number that they said of current registrants, but we could triple that. We could triple that in the next couple of weeks if we all get really, really serious about it, because the reality is there are more Eric and Jaime and Davids out there whose lives need to be changed, and they're waiting for you to be courageous enough to just be loud about what you're doing with your life. Be truthful. Don't hide what you've got going on. In fact, share it with the world, and let's blow this thing up. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon.
See you guys.